Welcome back, everybody. I hope that everybody enjoyed the clone project. Everybody should know exactly how to mask at this point. It's such a fun project to work on. So today we are going to begin working through chapter 3 in the book. So to do that, we are going to go into our book folder. We're going to go to lesson number 3. And this is kind of what we're going to end up with. We're going to create this sort of shadow box looking thing with several seashells and objects. Should be a pretty cool little project, a little exercise. Okay, so to go ahead and get started, I'm going to go ahead and hit on 03 start. And it should open right up in Photoshop. So the object of this exercise is to learn about the selection tools. So we've kind of spoken about the selection tools many times. They are the ones that are right over here. We have the more geometric shape ones. We have the rectangular marquee tool, the elliptical marquee tool, and then the single row ones. And then over here we have the lasso tool, the polygonal lasso tool, and the magnetic lasso tool. And then over here we have the object selection tool, the quick selection tool, and the magic wand. Okay, so if we follow along in the book, the first thing that it wants us to do is it wants us to save it. Now, in the book, it's specifically talking about saving it to the cloud. So I'm going to show you how that works. You may or may not have access to the cloud, so it would just be a good idea just to know how it works either way. If not, you can just save it to your folder that you already have the original in. Okay, so we're going to go to File, Save As. And the book wants us to say it is a working cloud. And then in here, we're going to hit Save to Cloud Documents. Then it'll automatically give you this option right here to put it right into your, you can either put it on your computer or you can save it onto your cloud. So I'm going to go ahead, personally, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this DS for Digital Skills and save. And I'm going to go ahead and save this document right in here. Okay, so up here you'll notice that it's now called Working Cloud PSDC. That means it's on the cloud. It's a Photoshop document on the cloud. So in the future, when you want to open it back up, we'll just go ahead and close this out. You can go to your files, and I'm going to go into DS, and you'll notice there it is. And it'll open right up. So if you don't have access to a cloud service, if you are using one of the school computers, you can just go File, Save As, and you can go to Save on your computer. And I'm going to put it back into where I found it. So I'm going to put it back on my desktop. And I'm going to save this one as just working. Okay, great. So what we have here is we have our frame that we're going to work with and all of the little pieces that are going to go into the frame. Just a reminder, if you hit the space bar, it moves it around. You can zoom by pressing Z. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of begin with this lovely sand dollar right here. So what the book wants us to kind of work with is this one here that's under the, it might look like this quick selection tool, but what we're going to start with is the magic wand tool. So the magic wand tool kind of works by choosing the colors that are around it. So it's kind of a way to the way it works is just by choosing the colors. So we're gonna make this just a little bit bigger. I'm gonna use my brackets to make my brush look a little bit bigger. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and deselect that and redo that. So again, we're gonna go over here, we're gonna click and hold, we're gonna hit the magic wand tool, and we're gonna go ahead and just click on this. Now if you notice, it does a pretty good job of selecting it around the edges, but I notice in here that there's some selections that are just not showing. Now you can change the tolerance and create kind of a better sample size, but it's really just picking, you're never going to get a perfect one because it's picking the colors. And so if I were to pick these colors, that would be really easy because it would just be one solid color. But because we're picking the middle colors, it's kind of cutting out some of these pieces. So the magic wand tool works great for certain things that are all one color, but it's a little more difficult when it's something organic like this. So we're going to go ahead and deselect this, and we're going to choose something different. So I think what it was wanting us to do is use the quick selection tool. And we can make our brush a little bit bigger on this one. And there we go. And I'm just going to kind of click and drag. And if you notice, it happens really fast, and it does a pretty good job of selecting everything that you want. And really it did a pretty good job on those corners. Okay, so at this point, now that we have this fully selected, we're going to hit our move tool, and you'll see that there's a bounding box that happens. Sometimes that doesn't show up, but it's there in the background. So what we want to do is we want to move it to its spot, and that's over here. Now, if you click and hold on it, it will automatically be cut out of that spot, and you can move it to where you need it to be. You can always use your up and down arrows to move and change it however you need to change it. So another thing about this box here, if you don't have it there, and you don't have to have it there, you can just click this Show Transform Controls, and it'll show up. So if you don't have it, then you can just use that to kind of show where it is. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and deselect. So to do that, you can hit Select and Deselect, or Command D. So I'm going to use my hand tool, and we're going to work on the next one. The next one is this shape right over here. So the book wants us to kind of work with this one right here next. And the way it wants us to work is to go back to that quick selection tool. And this time we're going to choose Object Selection Tool. Now this should work really well with this one because there is a white background. And if you kind of highlight it, it should highlight what you're gonna select. So what we're gonna do is it's gonna be a square. We're gonna click over here and we're gonna drag and hold it and put the whole object in the square. And automatically Photoshop finds those corners and selects it. And you can see the marching ants around. Okay, now to move it, we're gonna go back over here to the move tool. And if you notice, when I put my cursor over it, you see that there's some scissors there. That means it's gonna cut it and move it for you. So we're gonna click and drag and drop it right into the spot that it needs to be. And then we're gonna deselect. So I have this awesome little toolbar here. I'm gonna click on that and it should deselect it for me. Wonderful. Okay, so now we've looked at the magic wand tool, the quick selection tool, and the object selection tool. The next thing we're gonna look at is the elliptical marquee tool. So this is a really helpful tool for things that are really geometric in shape. So I think we're gonna do this plate next. So we're gonna click on that and hold it and click on the elliptical marquee tool. And to bring up that marquee tool, you're gonna click and drag. Now it gets really difficult to do this and kind of know where your shape needs to be. So what the book tells us is if you hit your space bar while holding down your mouse, then you can actually move it right into place. And then you can let it go and resize it. I'm gonna move it again. And I think that that's pretty good. Now, once your selection is done, you can easily move it up and down and into place as you see that you need to. You can also use the mouse to move it to where you need it to be. Okay, I deselected it by accident. So now there's a couple ways that we can do this. We can either go select, reselect, and it'll bring it right back. Or you can just start all over again, which honestly I kind of want to do. All right, there we go. I'm gonna do that one more time. Okay, so now when we're done, we're going to move it again. So what the book wants us to learn about is that you can move it with your arrow keys. So we're gonna go to our move tool up here. And with it selected, we can actually move up by using the up arrows. I actually pressed a button there and that copied it. So we're just gonna Command Z that. All right, so if you just want to hit the up arrow, and you can easily nudge it into place. I'm just gonna move it with my mouse, but you can easily nudge it into whatever space you need. Okay, Awesome. So we have that one in place. We're going to go ahead and deselect. All right, the next one that we're going to use is this one right over here. And what we're going to use for this is we're going to come over here to the lasso tool, and we're going to use the polygonal lasso tool. And with this, you can, well, let's do the lasso. With this one, you can easily kind of just draw along the edges. I'm going to do that one more time. This one gets a little difficult because really, honestly, you're going to have to be really, really accurate. And so you can easily kind of just go around the edges with the lasso tool. Now, if you pick up, it's going to close up your spot for you. So you don't want to do that. Another option is if you hit okay. So you can tell by this, it's not as accurate and it kind of gets a little messy in places. And so it's a little more difficult to kind of do that one. But you can always come up here and you can subtract from the selection. So if you take your little lasso tool and you just redo that line, it'll subtract it from the selection. And you can kind of go in and really kind of clean it up this way. And that's by using this right here. And then you can always add to the selection by using this one over here. So that's a really helpful one for things that are sort of easy to trace out, but it can be cumbersome at times. Now, what the book wants us to do is it wants us to learn how to rotate it. So this obviously is up and down. So what we're going to do, there's a couple of different ways to do this. First, you can go to Image or Edit, Transform, and you can say Rotate. And it'll come up with your bounding box, and you can easily use the arrows to move the corners. And if you hit Shift, it'll move it on the axis. Or you can just, as you have your move tool, say Show Transform Tools, and then you also have that available. And this makes it pretty easy to turn it and do it however you'd like to do it. All right. The next one we're going to use is for this shell right over here. And we are going to use this magnetic lasso tool. So the magnetic lasso tool is kind of cool because it actually clings to the edges. So you can just go along the edges and it will find that edge and cling to it. Now this becomes really helpful because it's kind of like the lasso tool, but it sticks to your edges, so you don't have to be as perfect because it'll automatically do it for you. Now there are times like this where like it gets a little crazy and you just go back in here and you just use this to take it out. Just like before, you just find that edge and it'll automatically fix it up for you. Now, if you want to add to it, like over here, then you would just add to it and it will automatically do it for you. Okay, so we're going to zoom out and I have my move tool. So I'm just going to click and drag it right into its spot. Now you'll notice here that this has the checker box on there. All that means is that it's been cut out of the picture. Okay, and then I'm gonna hit Command deselect, and there we go. Okay, the last one that we're gonna talk about is we're gonna go back to the elliptical marquee. Now this one's a little different because this is a round shape. So what we're gonna do is instead of coming from the outside and finding our spot like we have before, we're gonna start from the middle and work our way out. So in order to do that, you wanna hit your Option key, your Alt key, and you wanna drag from the middle. And if you notice, then instead of dragging from the edges, it's dragging from the middle. Now the other thing you want to do is if you hit Shift, it'll keep it in a perfect circle. Now, like before, if you want to move the selection just a little bit, we're just going to move it to cover it. Then we have a perfect selection on our round. Now, this wants us to put it in the corner over here. Now, if we take this and put it in the corner, it's going to look a little crazy. So what we're going to do is we're going to scale it. So you can either go to Edit, Transform, and Scale, or you can just as easily just hold up to the corner, hit Shift, just hold up to the corner and drag it smaller. And that looks about right. So the next thing that the book wants us to do is, this is another nice thing, is you can also twist it as you see that you need to. Now the other thing that the book wants us to do is it wants us to copy it and paste it right over here. So we can do that a couple of different ways, but the easiest way to do it is just to hit Alt or Option. Now, if you see, look right there, when I am clicking the button, there's a little white arrow that pops up with it. Now, that is going to allow you to copy it. So if you hold down that Option or Alt and click and drag, it'll give you another instance of it. So we're going to do that. Another way to do it is if you have it selected like that, you can go to Edit, Copy, and Edit, Paste. And that'll give you another copy of it. And you can just click and drag it. Now, if you noticed right there was some guidelines. Those are really helpful to know exactly, like making sure that everything kind of lines up. So we're going to do it one more time. I'm going to hit the Option key, going to click and drag it. And we're going to drop it right there. Perfect. And that's it. That's all of the selection tools and the copy and paste tools. Now the very last piece of this is that you want to crop it. So we're going to hit our crop tool right here. We want to make sure that these are cleared out, and you're going to use ratio. And if you notice, you have your crop selection up. I want you to leave just a little bit of the white on the outline and crop out your picture. And we're going to crop out all of these extra stuff that we copied and pasted. And then we're going to hit done. And that's it. That's our thing. It's a pretty good exercise. I will say that when working with Photoshop, selection is probably one of the things that you use most. So mastering the select tool is super duper important. And that's why they give you so many options for the selection tool, because that is a big part of most of the Photoshop pieces that you're working with. Okay, so when you are all done, we're going to save it as a JPEG, and that's what you will hand in. So we're going to go save as, and we're going to save it as format as a, actually, file. We're going to export as, and we're going to export it as a JPEG, and then hit export. And I'm going to put it back in the same folder I had it, or actually I'm going to put it on my desktop. All right, good luck with this, and I'm looking forward to seeing some great things.